Good afternoon and welcome to Deepblocks weekly webinar. My name is Michael Cavone, your Chief Revenue Officer of Deepblocks. And I appreciate you taking the time to join us this week as we explore Jersey City, New Jersey, and we'll be looking at a certain listing and the development potential of this particular listing in Jersey City. But before we get started, we're going to give a few more minutes to let some more people join us. Again, feel free to use the chat to ask questions. If you want me to discuss a particular functionality or review something that we just went over or explore parts of the development, just please feel free to use that chat. Also, feel free to reach me at michael@deepblocks.com. If you have any additional questions after the webinar, I will post my email now to the chat. Before we get started, as I mentioned, I want to just go through a couple of key sections of our website and give you some quick updates and announcements of some of the new features and functionalities we're working on, as well as some of the new cities that we plan on scaling to. I'm going to share my screen. So currently, if you go to deepblocks.com, we have a couple of really resourceful sections. We have our city sections, which kind of break down the cities that we have zoning data in, as well as the cities we have parcel level data. We're currently in 43 US cities with zoning data. We're actually working on adding another 57 cities, which should be live. We'll be rolling out new cities in the next couple of weeks throughout Q3 to get us over 100 cities with zoning. And additionally, continue to keep adding parcel level data as well. We're over 1,000 plus cities. As you can see on the map, the cities with parcel level data is represented with the blue dots, and the red dots represent cities with zoning data. Additionally, we have market data that we are always adding through our map layers, which get overlaid on top of the search in the search engine functionality of our interface. Those market rates and construction costs and demographic data, opportunity zones, that's all represented throughout the entire country. So you can always understand, analyze the marketplace you are analyzing. In addition, we also have our webinar section, which we upload and post each webinar for the previous weeks. We also have our tutorial section, which is a great 60-second video clips of key functionalities of the website and the use of the platform. So this is very helpful videos you can go to and just again get a better understanding how to use certain parts of the site. And then lastly, we have our pricing. Right now we're at $18,000 per year for a subscription. You can get grandfathered in at that pricing. As we continue to increase our pricing throughout the year, as we add more cities, the pricing will eventually be $36,000 per year. But if you get in now, you'll be locked in at the $18,000 per year per user. So again, always feel free to reach out to me to discuss getting a subscription, or again, if you want to go into a deeper dive and do a one-on-one demo, again, feel free to email me at michael@deepblocks.com. So that being said, we're going to now jump into our webinar. As I mentioned, this week is focused in on a listing in Jersey City, New Jersey. The address is 32 Glenwood Avenue, Jersey City, New Jersey. Again, it's 32 Glenwood Avenue, Jersey City, New Jersey. So here is my dashboard on our platform. Again, it saves all my projects, and it represents the two different interfaces of Deepblocks. On the left, here's my search engine, and the right is our start project. The left side, the search engines, our market scanner, allowing you to scan through thousands and thousands of parcels, and it allows you to refine your search to focus in on a handful of parcels, or again, you could just put in an address like we're going to do today. And then the start project, you could go right into a project and then go into the preliminary underwriting of the project and look and analyze the financial scenario of multifamily, industrial, office, retail, or you even can do mixed use. So whatever, again, your specialty is and what your company is focusing on, you can use that project module to, again, go through what if scenarios, go through various iterations, and truly get a nice financial analysis of 1 year back of the envelope return on cost. So with that said, we're going to start through the search engine, and we're going to go through the entire process from the search engine into that preliminary underwriting module. So as I mentioned, the address that we're focusing on today is 32 Glenwood Avenue, and it's Jersey City, New Jersey. There it is. We're going to select that. We're going to hit search engine. And what will occur is our screen's going to load, and parcel will be highlighted with a pin drop, as you're seeing right there in that red. So that's the parcel we are looking at. But before I kind of get into the preliminary underwriting and the what if scenarios and the financial analysis and development potential of the site, what I like to do is I first want to get a good understanding of the market in the area, in this neighborhood, and kind of show you some of the cool features that we have here at Deepblocks with the map layers. And before I kind of jump into that, just quickly like to always overview and give a little insight into this particular module. This again is our market scanner and our search engine. Here we have our tools section, so you can search again in this grid-like view, or you can turn on a satellite layer view. The satellite layer view really is good, a great way of when you kind of want to zoom in and really understand the surroundings in the area. You can turn that satellite layer on. Also, here's our select parcel tool. You can select one parcel at a time. This is our assemblage tool, allowing you to select multiple parcels and really analyze multiple parcels at one time. So if you want to look at a city block and truly do a analysis on that city block, you can select multiple parcels. We have our draw parcel tool, which again handles two different functionalities. Allows you to really draw a parcel anywhere in the world, especially in the United States. So if we don't have zoning in this particular city, you still can use our software to one, draw that parcel, understand the marketplace, and look at the map layers, and again, apply those map layers to understand the market data and the different demographic data. In addition, you can then go into the preliminary underwriting and use our 3D modeling and financial analysis to understand what the development potential is of a particular site. But we also can use that draw parcel tool to draw within a larger parcel. For instance, this particular parcel I'm highlighting right now is a relatively large parcel. You can draw parcels within that larger parcel if you want to maybe analyze multiple mid-rise buildings, multiple townhomes, whatever it may be. It just gives you that flexibility to kind of scope out what the potential is of a particular site. In the left here is our market scanner, which we're not going to really utilize today since we're focusing on a certain listing, but here is where you kind of can search through thousands of parcels, and we can search by zoning district, uses allowed. You can then minimize and refine that search by lot size, buildable area, units allowed, whatever it may be to meet your criteria. Once you kind of locate the parcels that really match your search criteria, you can then export that out into a CSV file and have a really good reference point, which the CSV file basically gives you all the listings. There's their legal address, city, state, some of the zoning information tied to those parcels, along with some additional market data as well. And then over here is our map layers. So which I'm going to start activating and kind of start the understanding and analysis of this particular area in Jersey City. So as you can see, here's our parcel. I'm going to select it. And once you select it, the property info will appear. And here's that property info right here on the left. You get some demographic information, some key property info, and then we go right into our zoning information, which is some of the key information we extract for our clients. And one of the strong suits of Deepblocks software, our ability to really not only bring you the zoning information and help you with that development process, but as well, we bring it to its scale. So you'll see zoning limits, we'll see unit density, parking by use, general use allowed, and the setbacks of this particular parcel. But over here in the map layers, again, we can activate various buttons to just, again, get a good idea of this particular market in New Jersey. We can turn on buildable area ratio, which is a good measure of density. And right now we're seeing that this is located in a high density zone. So our particular parcel is, let's see where we're at over here. So we're in a high density zone, which gives you an idea of what the vertical build can potentially be for this particular parcel. We also have opportunity zones. So they'll show you that this parcel is located in an opportunity zone. So that could mean that that's great incentive to develop in this particular area. We can also show you zoning density, which gives you an idea of the density of a particular market. And again, anything you see in the map layers here is shown here in the map legend. We basically show you how that data is sourced, as well as how that data is represented on our interface. So again, buildable area ratios right here. So if we did turn that on, you'll see that that red and maroon shows you the higher buildable area ratio. Zoning density, for instance, as I mentioned, gives you a good idea of units allowed and the density of a certain city. And we'll go down here, it's represented. As you can see, red is high density, orange is medium, and yellow is low density. Now, some other items we can look at, we can go into our people button. This is kind of our demographic information based on census data from 2010 through 2018. I'm just going to pull up our address one more time. So 32 Glenwood Avenue, Jersey City. Just so we can get that pin drop and understand where exactly we're looking. So we're going to kind of do a little bit of a macro view of this particular area. And again, there it is. And just to get a good idea of the demographic data. So we can turn on median income button. It's going to be a heat map and show you the median incomes of this particular part of Jersey City. Our parcel is right now located in this particular listing in $58,429 median income. We can also look at median rent to get an idea of the median rent being charged in this particular area. It's $11.86. And we can also look at population as well as employment. Let's get an idea of the employment percentage at 57.8%. So a strong employment number. So it just gives you a good macro overview again of this particular neighborhood and if this is a good site for potential development. Some of the additional things we can look at, we're going to our residential layer. We can put on residential rates. This gives you a good measure of dollar per square foot that you can charge. This is, again, we have an aggregate of listing data throughout the country, but then we break it down based on some market and we apply our machine learning to this strong baseline number and gives you a really strong measure of what the dollar per square foot is based on the current market that can be charged in the residential rate area. So also, like, one thing I like to always look at too is this retail button, just to get an idea. We can look at traffic flow in a particular city, as well as we can look at local businesses around. In case maybe you want to look at multifamily, maybe you want to do a little multifamily or retail on the ground. So it just gives us a nice idea of what is in this particular neighborhood. And lastly, I want to go back to the people layer and kind of go a little bit of a micro view. We're going to zoom in on this particular parcel and really focus in on this census tract. And you'll notice right here we have our demographic trends. So these are great indicators of the trends going on in a particular census tract. And I'll show you how these are all represented. So basically we're focusing again on this red parcel. That's the 32 Glenwood Avenue. And the way this works, you basically put your mouse over the box and you'll start to see the shade colors appear on our screen. And to notice to understand what census tract we're in, and we're in census tract 29. So what we're going to do is we'll turn off all the other census tracts and focus in on that 29 and study the graph line trends of what's going on. So for population, we're seeing a strong incline and then a strong decline in recent years. Just to let you know, we are working on the data and importing it and uploading 2020 shortly. We're just waiting to get the rest of the data from the census. So once we get the rest of the census data for 2020, we will update it on our end. So again, now let's look at employment per population. So again, we're going to turn off all the other census tracts and we're going to focus in on 29. We're seeing a strong decline of employment population over the last 8 years. And then you can kind of see it against the United States trend. So, and we'll go to median gross rent. Now we see a nice incline in median gross rent in this particular area. So that's a nice indicator of possible rental income. And lastly, we can look at median household income over the course of this last 8 years. We'll turn off again the other census tracts, and that's good to see. We see a nice strong incline in the recent years of median household income. So again, these layers are just a good way of helping you analyze this neighborhood, get a good feel for the marketplace, and make you feel comfortable about investing your money into this particular location and, you know, kind of justifying that this might be the right place for a development potential or development play. Now our next step is we're going to go into the preliminary underwriting and go into that second interface, which is tied to our 3D modeling. It's a financial analysis. Again, 1 year back of the envelope. We're just going to focus on multifamily for this particular example. But again, you can always select one or more property uses. So we could do multifamily and retail. And you can always adjust it on the next interface as well. So if you don't do it here, we can go through this iteration of multifamily. For this example, at the end, we could copy the project and then go through another iteration of multifamily with retail just to see if our 1-year ROC is better by adding in another use. But again, we're going to just focus on multifamily at first. So just kind of going through this second interface and module of our software. This is, again, financial analysis part, gives you the ability to go through what if scenarios, adjust setbacks. You can define the building, adjust the shape of the building. Then we can go into assumptions and adjust those assumptions on the income and cost side, and really do everything we can to optimize the site and really, calculate and better understand the best potential for development on this particular site. So just going through real quickly the sections, we have our tools section. Again, we can turn our satellite layer on. You'll notice we have a shared project. So if there's multiple licenses that are purchased by your company, you can share projects back and forth with your colleagues. So one person can work on the project, share it with his colleague. They can then work on the project and just easily go back and forth and look at different scenarios. You can then copy the project, as I mentioned. So if we go through this iteration based on these assumptions and define the building, we can then copy this project and go through another set of measurements and enter in different assumptions, and then have 2 different scenarios. At the end of each iteration, we can export out to a PDF file, a 4-page report, and that allows us to compare notes and analyze the different scenarios and present those to, again, colleagues, investors, whoever it may be that you are working with. So again, here's our defined building section. So this is where we would adjust our building height. We enter in our setbacks, which I'll show you shortly. We have our adjust assumptions section, which allows you to adjust, again, the income side and the cost side, as well as the parking. Just a quick note, if we were doing mixed use, you simply in a defined building could just turn on retail and you'll see a retail layer pop up. And this is where in the adjust assumption sections where you would adjust the multifamily income side, the retail income side, if again, we were looking at a mixed use play. But again, we're just going to focus in on multifamily for this particular example. So we'll come back shortly and adjust the assumptions on the income and cost side. And now again, we have our map layers, so we can turn on the same layers that we were just looking at in the previous interface. We can always activate as well if we want to see them again in this 3D modeling phase in the financial analysis. In the return analysis section, we kind of do our breakdown of income and expenses, and then we kind of see our ROC. You'll notice our KPI bar down here gives us our key performance indicators. We also have our assumptions button. So basically anything we adjust from defining the building and adjusting assumptions is automatically updated into this breakdown of property building. So you'll see your FAR, we'll see our footprint, open space area. So as we enter in setbacks, you'll see this open space area increase. You'll see the lot coverage. And again, all the key numbers that are tied to this analysis. We'll see our area breakdown, economics, as well as project cost. And lastly, as I mentioned, when we're kind of done going through entering all the values and assumptions, we can then export this report to a 4-page PDF file. So lastly, we have our property info. Again, same info we were just looking at on that previous interface when we searched this particular listing at 32 Glenwood Avenue. Then you get our demographic, our property info. But the key part of this property info for this kind of building out this 3D model is looking at our zoning information and what the restrictions are and the guidelines are, so that when we do the modeling and entering our assumptions, we're kind of abiding by the zoning rules if we want to stick to these particular rules. Again, we do have users that sometimes will go against the grain and try to build beyond these particular zoning limits because they might present it to the municipality as a better development potential if it's outside the scope. But again, we've always provide the zoning limits for developing within these guidelines. You'll notice that the units allowed is 13 units. So that's something key that we want to keep in mind. If we're going to do like a mid-rise apartment, we have an 85-foot height restriction. Lot coverage is 100% for the mid-rise. Right here, mid-rise apartment, 100% lot coverage. You'll see the zoning district is R3, multifamily mid-rise. So it's 78 units per acre. So that's why the 13 units total comes into play. Parking by use, we got 1 space per unit. again, we could either put underneath, or we could actually work on creating setbacks and doing ground parking, which I will demonstrate shortly. And lastly, we have our setbacks. We have 5 foot. Let's see, in 5 foot, if no adjacent building for the mid-rise apartment. Secondary front 0, and then it's 5 foot for mid-rise apartment. And side is the same thing, 5 foot. And then lastly, our rear is 30 foot for mid-rise apartments. So these are just key setback notes to pay attention to, and that's kind of what we're going to head into next. We're going to adjust our setbacks, kind of shape the building, and start to define that building. So it's one thing to keep in mind. I'm going to go to adjust assumptions first, because as I mentioned, 13 units is what's allowed here. So we're going to change that from 34 to 13. And then we're going to go into define building and start shaping our building. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into our setback mode. What setback mode allows you to do, it allows you to uniquely identify each side, so we can adjust the setbacks, again, uniquely based on the setback guidelines. So we're going to make this A, it's the primary along Glenwood. And we have, let's see, I believe our rear is going to be across from A. This is going to be C. All right, so now we have our 4 sides uniquely identified. And now we'll enter in our setback numbers. So as I mentioned, I'm going to look to kind of put some ground floor parking in instead of doing it underneath the building. So we're going to do a relatively significant primary setback in front of Glenwood. So we're going to do, let's see, I have here set up to be, I believe it's going to be, let's see, 42.7 feet. Our secondary is going to be 5, as was noted in the setback information, again, in that property info. As I mentioned, secondary was 5 for mid-rise, side was 5 for mid-rise. And we're going to do, for the rear, I believe it has to be 30 feet. So you'll notice, it's going to kind of turn my building around a little bit. I'm going to zoom in too. You'll see that we have, this is our open space area now. So again, we should be enough space to put some ground floor parking in. All right, so now that we kind of started to shape our building and adjust the setbacks, we can then like kind of play with it even a little bit more. So we can now go to this, maybe we want to make the building a little bit higher. Let's see what it looks like at 52.3 feet. Goes up a little bit, let's try 60.7. Again, these are just numbers I'm playing with just to kind of get an idea and feel, and also increase this open space area if I want to put some parking here in the front. All right, now that I'm pretty comfortable with this particular layout, I'm going to go into my assumptions and start adjusting the income and the cost side of this particular project. So as I mentioned, we're doing 13 units. We're going to leave them at 2 bedrooms. The next step is to, let's go adjust the income. Now, just keep in mind, we do pre-populate with sub-market value. So this is based on the current marketplace in this neighborhood. However, we do allow you to adjust it based on what you might apply for this particular building. If you're doing a type A, type B, or type C, or whatever, again, you're constructing. So we're going to have a little bit more expensive building here. It's going to make us $2,900 a month. You'll watch the ROC go up a bit. We're also going to adjust the amenities. We're only going to do 500 square feet of amenities for this particular building. We're going to make the 2 bedrooms right now 1,000 square feet. So we're going to shrink them a little bit. And you'll notice again, as I adjust these assumptions, my building in shape changes a bit and it automatically updates. And as I mentioned, you're in the return analysis, you'll also see these numbers reflected in your assumptions. So you'll notice that the building footprint will change, the open space area will change, the building height, everything will automatically be modified based on what we enter over here on the left panel. All right, so additionally, we're going to change the OpEx. Right now it's at 35%. I feel you can be around 30%. So again, that drives that ROC up to 5.33%. So feel pretty good about this on the income side and the property use side. Let's go into the project cost side and start making some adjustments. Right now, dollar per square foot on the hard cost is $240. Again, we are bringing in some market values, but we leave it up to you to adjust. If you feel maybe we can do it for $220 per square foot, I'm going to make that change. Now we're at the 5.75 ROC. Contingencies, I'm going to make 4%. And let's see what else we have. Demo costs, we're going to drop down to $7 per square foot. So that helps just a little bit to the ROC. All right, let's see if there's anything else we can adjust to maybe, again, drive that ROC a little bit higher, get it over 6%. Maybe I can get $29.50 per month in this particular area for a 2-bedroom, which is definitely doable. So we're going to now get up to see 5.95%. And let's see what else we can potentially adjust. Let's see, we got 220 here, 4% contingencies, maybe soft cost at 12. Okay, so between, again, the whole point I'm trying to demonstrate is that you can just adjust on the cost side or the income side within reason, and to start generating an idea of the scenario that is the most optimal scenario for this particular site. And this one is based on just multifamily. So I feel pretty good about this. We're at 6.09%. Based on these assumptions I entered, this is very reasonable. You know, one of the next steps I would do is I would export this report just to show you how this works. We can enter who it's from, who it's going to, write a little summary about this particular project. We can upload a cover image that represents this particular site, upload your company logo, and you can change the color palette based on your company colors. I'm going to show you a stock report just to give you, again, a good sense of what is presented here. And again, it's a nice 4-page report. It's great for sharing with, as I mentioned, co-workers, colleagues, partners, investors, whoever it may be that you're trying to present these different scenarios. You'll see here, this image would change with image you upload. Your logo would change here. Here's the writing summary that would apply if you updated it. Here's a little breakdown of the property info, zoning summary, and the stacking plan. We show the 4 key demographic trends that we were looking at in the previous interface in the search engine. And lastly, here's our 1-year back of the envelope financial analysis. So it's a great report, great 4-pager, extremely useful. You know, before we kind of end today's webinar, I just want to show you again that we could copy this project, and I'm going to just name in version 2. I kind of just want to demonstrate how we can quickly go through another scenario and iteration to see if we can drive this ROC up a little bit. You know, if you notice in the property info, it is zoned for ground floor retail, which I will show you quickly. Right here, you'll see ground floor retail is allowed here. So if we wanted to, in this second iteration, we could turn on the retail, we put a little retail at the bottom and zoom in a bit. And then we can now, so you'll see it goes up to 10.04%, but we do have to watch our building heights at 94.1 feet, so we're a little too high. So now we can start, again, adjusting this to try to suit and meet the zoning guidelines. Let's just go to 2,000 square feet. And, you know, we can start, again, modifying these assumptions within the zoning guidelines and just to see if we can get a little bit better ROC. So my only point to you is you can now go through this iteration of assumptions and, again, try to apply it based on those property info and the zoning information we present to you, and try to, again, optimize this site to bring out the most value possible in this particular development play in Jersey City. So again, that is today's webinar. We're tied again to this particular listing of 32 Glenwood Avenue in Jersey City. You know, we got a chance to go through and understand the market in the previous interface in our search engine or / market scanner interface, where we entered in the address, we turned on some map layers to best understand that neighborhood. Then we clicked that parcel preliminary underwriting, and then went through some scenarios by entering assumptions on the income side, the cost side, to find the building to shape this particular building. And lastly, went through a few scenarios of what if analysis of what makes the most sense for this particular development site and site in Jersey City. So again, if you have any questions at all throughout, or after, please feel free to email me at michael@deepblocks.com. Again, we could always set up a one-on-one demo and go into further detail based on your needs, or if you want to search different markets. Also, please feel free to email me if you have certain markets you want to cover in upcoming webinars. And again, I do appreciate your time, and I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Take care.